Bring back that beat, DJ Licious.
What's going on, y'all? Another edition of the Forecast. -1. Wilkes is on vacation. I'm gonna do air quotes vacation while he's cooking salmon and shrimp and etouffee and gumbo and all that on his page. But yeah, Wilkes won't be on tonight. But we got the three of us, myself, King Doc, and A-Trap, and we'll be reviewing The Woman King. I kind of changed up the graphic this week, trying some creative things we can help get more eyes, more views, more interaction. So it looks like a different flyer, but it's still us. We still here. Movies, films, documentaries a completely different way for different perspectives, and we review the Black films that don't get a lot of love a lot of times. And so we're coming at you with another good one tonight. First off, A-Trap, how you doing?
I'm all good, man. Thanks for asking.
Good. King Dog, I know you're doing good with that Versace.
Yeah, fantastic, man. I just, when you watch The Woman King and you see the king with 4 or 5 wives, it inspired me to try to start with one at least.
Yeah, I start somewhere.
Is it freezing up on y'all at all?
Nah.
It's freezing up on my end. I may have to try to get out and restart, man. So talk amongst yourself. Let me try to do a restart because I'm freezing quite a bit over here.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So, film starring Viola Davis. She always got that walk, man. I was waiting on that walk. Viola Davis and a few other up and coming actors. And I felt like I liked the cast. Also, they had John Boyega. He played King Gozi. Lashana Lynch, Thuso Mbedu. Hopefully I said that right. But I feel like I had a really good cast. Some characters that we've seen before. But give me your initial thoughts. This movie's been out actually for a little while.
It's been out almost a year.
Yeah, it has. But give me your thoughts on The Woman King.
I think it was an excellent film. It was. I think they did a great job with casting, the scenery. Clearly, they went back to the motherland to shoot this. I think it was a great movie, man. I enjoyed it. It was a movie I wish I would have went to the movies to support. But I didn't, but I did support it on Netflix. I think I'm going to watch it again. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And for me, I kind of went into it with a little bit of, I don't know if I want to watch this just because I heard a lot of the criticism, but actually it was not bad. Now, the question which we'll get into, is it accurate? Obviously, no. And we'll talk about that, throughout the show. But I felt like the movie was done well. It gave you that excitement and gave you some truth in it, but it also obviously, the creative liberties of what they do. But I felt like I was more so impressed than I was frustrated, with the film. So
I can identify with some of the frustrations, but I wasn't going to focus on that. It's we'll get into it later, but it just lets you know people have, it goes back to last week's program, selective outrage. You outraged at certain things, and then other things you just let slide because you don't really realize that you should be outraged, but it is what it. Yeah. That's the generation that's the time we're living in. We're gonna get mad at every little thing that don't count, but the things that do count, we overlook them on a regular basis.
Yeah. Keisha in the building said, "Good evening, gents. Doc, what the WTF?" He had to run out real quick. He got some lag. And then she
I
says,
think she's talking about the outfit is why she said,
"Oh,
WTF."
Hey, I did the best I could. Okay, I did the best I could. They don't have no pronunciations underneath their names, so I did the best I could. Keisha Kilolo, 1/3 of perspective. Somebody said, "What's good, y'all? Thank you for tuning in. If you're tuning in the Facebook group, please go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. We can see who you are, and you can be tapped into what we're talking about. So we're just kind of doing initial thoughts. Doc, what's your initial thoughts on The Woman King? You still got a little bit of lag, but
yeah, I know it. I mean, shoot, my initial thoughts, man. Obviously, you see, when I'm inspired by something, I show it. I can't hide it. So I was feeling it, man. You know, so much so to where you went over the plot while I was out.
no, did not touch on that.
Okay, so let me just kind of get a plot for those who haven't, because y'all may have seen it before we were doing this review. I had not. So let me kind of go ahead and give the plot on it. So in the 1800s, a group of all-female warriors protects the African kingdom of Dahomey with skills and fierceness unlike anything the world has ever seen. Faced with a new threat, General Naniska trains the next generation of recruits to fight against a foreign enemy that's determined to destroy their way of life. Well, as a result, when I got into it, of course, I asked the question to myself, I wonder, is this based on true events at all, or if it's completely fictionalized? And so in looking it up, it's not based on a true story. However, the group of women warriors were real. And again, this is probably one of the names you messed up. The chick that played Nawi, Thuso Mbedu. She was one of the last of the Ajogi warriors. So the Ajogi warriors were real, but everything else was kind of fictionalized. And there was really a chick by the name of Nawi. And she passed away only in 1979 at over 100 years of age. And again, so she was the one who, was like the real in the midst of fiction, if that makes any sense, which a lot of films will do that, just have some real character names and stuff like that. But initially, man, like I said, I loved it. I got a question later that'll tell you why I was surprised that I liked it as well as I did, but I'll ask those questions later.
All right, what's up, Raider Kev? We said can't chat in the middle of a workout, man. Get that workout in. You definitely inspiring people as you showing your workout, how many steps you did, how many miles you did. So keep doing what you're doing. This is
he ain't
CJ.
Inspiring me, shit.
Yeah, you must not be friends with Raider Kev then. Pastor Dot in the building. He said, "Hey, brothers, the king, long live the king." And Keisha said, "The homies." Yeah, that's close enough. Sir. Close enough. All right, so.
When I read the name of that city, I said, this is.
Go ahead.
I said, when I read that city name, I said to myself, this is fun. Yeah, I know it, man. I can't. I don't know what to do. Shit.
Man, you got AT&T?
Yeah. And I got a booster over here.
So it started off West Africa, 1823, and the kingdom of Dahomey, which is now Benin in Africa. So that kingdom obviously is no longer, but it transferred over to Benin. So it started off, like I said, West Africa, 1823. And one of the things I thought was interesting is that when we look at the Marvel movies, and specifically when we look at Wonder Woman and they talked about the Amazons, this is actually the true Amazon because they were so powerful. Nobody's seen anything like this. So the Europeans actually called them Amazon due to the similarities of the Greek, mythology. So when you look at, a lot of things are pulled from other things. That's one thing that you'll learn through film, is that there's always going to be something that's pulled from somewhere else to, put together a full story. But I felt like that initial part through some of the research I thought was interesting. And they were so powerful that they had men fighting with them. It wasn't the women fighting with the men; it was the men assisting the women. And I felt like that was an amazing true story that I felt like needs to be told. A-Trap, your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean it's drawn from several different queens, and it just shows you how this what is it? I can't think of the word right now. It just shows you how this is a westernized way of thinking. And like I literally showed a video on my show last week about how women play a more significant role in African lore than they do in the Western European civilization. And it's amazing how the Greeks get all the credit for mythology, and all they did was steal that from Kemet or Egypt or in some cases Ethiopia, and it's northern African lore, and the Greeks have taken over it. The whole Zeus, and that's Amun Ra. It's just the stolen. They just shows you that most of the African lore has been stolen and co-opted and labeled in other countries.
Right. It's a lot of it is thievery, and that's been going on since beginning of time. I mean, that's not anything new. That's how this country, the United States, was built, was from thievery. That's how a lot of things came about. So this is not just like the old saying, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything is reciprocal. Everything is duplicated. The movie was epic. Watched it back to back. Says Facebook user. Let me see who that is real quick. Appreciate you for tuning in. And make sure to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. That's my man Archie Red. Shout out to Archie Red. I haven't seen you in a minute. I know you're doing your thing. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, or drink the Kool-Aid. He's got a pretty dope channel. He does some wrestling stuff and some, society and culture type stuff. I felt like the parts what they did. So my understanding was, I thought they did not say that they were acquiring people as slaves to sell them, but they physically said it. They said it that that's what we're doing. So it wasn't, that part was true. So we're gonna talk about some accuracies and inaccuracies, but that part was true. They did say that's what we were doing. If you look at the history, that's how they made a lot of their, well, really all of their money was through the slave trade. And they actually tried to do palm oil, which they talked about in the film at one point, but it just wasn't as lucrative, so they went back to slave trading. But Doc, did you do some deep diving or some research on that part of it?
No, I figured A-Trap would have, because I've heard A-Trap basically say that to try to, because again, anytime, there's a debate amongst our people about the slave trade and what was happening with regard to that. And, those same black people who try to say black on black crime are the same black people who come and say, well, we were selling out ourselves, stuff like that. And so he comes in and says, now understand something. These were warring tribes. These were people that were captured as, in battles and stuff like that. It wasn't just a situation where we going next door and, turning that joke over. So I think A-Trap is probably in a better position to be able to speak on that, because he's done it even before this movie was released.
Yeah, I mean, what we had to do is take out this 20th century mind state of, first of all, we refer to people from Africa as slaves. They were people who were captured and enslaved. And once you say that, you identify this as a human being. Once you identify it as a human being, you realize the differences in human beings. I mean, let's go to something as simple as people from Mississippi, people from Alabama, people from Texas, people from Arkansas, people from Illinois, people from Missouri. We're all part of the United States, but we all see each other as different. You know,
Right.
I've heard these two women, like I watched Corey Holcomb show. He has this guy on there named Marcus from Arkansas. He had these two sisters on there from Houston. And they literally said, no, bruh, we Southern, you country. So this is here in the United States. And when you look at people enslaving people and capturing people, we must look at the same thing. All we have to do is go to our brothers and sisters to the north and on the European peninsula, because that's not a continent. But I'm not going to get into all that. So you got people who live in Spain who had Italian slaves. You had people who live in the Slavic areas who had Russian slaves. You got people in England enslaved Ireland. So we always, people dress down the community and try to dehumanize the community by saying you sold each other. But everybody on the history of the earth has had slaves. The difference is this: in Dahomey or the Ashantis or the Zulus, people who are in the border, these fictitious borders that were created by the colonizers or the colonization of the continent. I am not Kenyan if I live in what is known as Ghana. I am Guyanese or Ghanaian. Excuse me, Guyanese is North South America. I am Ghanaian. I am Kenyan. I am Botswanian, or whatever you call yourself. So I have no connection to the people who are in Mali and Bali and other parts of the continent, Cape Town and things of that nature. So these people are as estranged as people are in Texas, Chicago, Dallas, Chicago, Los Angeles, as we are to our people who live in Montreal, Quebec, or Toronto. We're all North Americans, but we're not all the same. So until we come to the realization of these people live in they are different tribes, they just look alike, just like an Italian looks a lot like a Greek, but they're not the same. Just like a Korean looks a lot like a Chinese person to an outsider, or a Japanese person to an outsider. But when you are Chinese or Japanese, in your mind, you don't have anything to do with the Chinaman. I mean, with the other people. So until we come to the realization, just because you live on the continent of Africa and you are considered an African, you are not brethren. You're only brethren through the skin. And the skin is just in accordance to where you're from. So until we come to that realization, then we can stop with, just like with black on black crime. Well, you know what? You have laws created that force me to live next to only black people. So I ain't gonna get into an argument with somebody from Dallas, because guess what? I don't live in Dallas. Now, if I come down to Dallas, I might get into an argument with them. I'm gonna get in an argument with someone in Chicago. So it's that's the situation. So until people educate themselves on world issues, they'll continue to live by those foolish tropes.
And just to add to that, so basically each of those tribes were trying to put themselves in the best position, right? Just like we are today, just like I'm striving to try to leave a legacy for my kids and grandkids, and I'm trying to build my family up. That's what each kingdom was doing, so the Dahomey people were no different. What can we do to better our tribe? What can we do to ensure the longevity of our people? And sometimes that meant we need to improve our hunting skills. Sometimes that meant we need to improve our fighting skills. We need to go acquire land. We need to go acquire territory. So they were doing the same thing that nations do, because they saw themselves as a nation, right? Which is why you call it the Kingdom of Dahomey. So again, it makes complete sense to me. I got news for you. As soon as I heard H-Rap talking about this, and this was several months ago, maybe even over a year ago, when I first heard H-Rap talked about it, it was a sense of relief for me, if that makes any sense. It was like, oh, that made me feel a whole lot better about the situation. It's, it made more sense, because it was, up to that point, it was a bit confusing as to how we got from point A to point B, So it makes a hell of a lot of sense to me, and I don't judge it as harshly, nowhere close to as harshly, as a result of that understanding.
Yeah. And I'll say this: I'm going to draw a parallel. We watched two films that we reviewed. One, Exterminate the Brutes, when it talks about going from British to Africa, and you talk about that slave trade, and going back to also Hebrews to Negroes. Do your own research. I'm not telling you what you should or should not believe, but I believe those people were Israelites. So if you think if just like Href said, if they're looking the same but they're trading, that means they don't know who they are. They're not me trading A-Trap or me trading Dark. That's not it. There's people from a different area, and the Bible says we are scattered across the globe. If you look at anywhere, you will see one of us there. They may not put us on camera. We may not always be there, but I would highly suggest you watch Hebrews to Negroes. It is long. Watch it in parts, and watch this film, and also watch one of the first things we reviewed was Exterminate the Brutes, and that'll give you some real clear breakdown. But I think this film also showed the ugly. And that's one of the things that the writers was saying, that we're going to tell the truth. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to make it seem like it was something pretty, because it was not pretty.
But you know what?
It was dirty.
Let me add something to that, man. I don't think it was ugly, because, again, when you adapt yourself to world history, it isn't ugly. This is the world. True. You know what I mean? True. You had over 300 tribes of indigenous North Americans they call Indians, because they part Indian, part African, and part Asian. That's how you get what we call Indians over here, right?
Yeah.
So, because they came over the Bering Straits through, they walked from Russia through Alaska and came down and then intermingled with everybody else. Okay. Now, when you look at this, when you look at these things, man, you got to realize what actually happened. This is the difference. Okay, North America was they're the European is a colonizer. Mm-hmm. Colonialism is something different than colonize. Colonize is taking over somebody's land and getting them to switch. Colonialism is when you take over somebody's mind. And when you take over some and listen to the king, and I'm jumping way far ahead, but the sister who what's the sister name? I can't think of her name. Viola Davis' character. She didn't get her mind colonialized, because she realized this is wrong. So she still had her right mind intact.
Right.
And she had to sell the king on it, because, again, look at the Dahomey tribe, which right next door to them is the Ashanti, one of the most fierce warring tribes in the history of the continent as well. But if you notice, see, this is why it wasn't ugly and it was beautiful. Yeah, we're going to sell y'all these people, but you notice even the biracial brother who saved the day at the end, he knew he was Dahomey.
Yep.
Right. On the flip side, when you get colonized and you get brought across these oceans, when you get brought across the Mediterranean and you get brought across the Atlantic, you get your name, your God, your diet, and your spirit attempted to be beaten and torn away from you. You get the Dark tribe, you get the Ben tribe, you get the Williams tribe, and you mix them up so they can't communicate, and you teach them your language. But when they were in the Dahomey, you spoke your tongue, you just were under me. So basically, I'm selling you into second-class citizenship. And as I was described before, that's how we get kente cloth. The Ashantis took over a warring tribe, took over artistic tribe. And they said, you're going to blend, since y'all artistic, y'all going to blend our flag into your flag. And that's how you get kente cloth. It was kenta cloth. And that's the difference in colonizing, when you take over, and colonialism, when you take over somebody's mind. And they took over the king's mind, and that's why he said, wait a minute, I ain't selling no more people, because these white, like sister said, these white people gonna come over here and they ain't gonna be happy until they take over this whole continent. And that's exactly what we saw. Instead of critiquing things we major in the minors. Let's start majoring in the big. Let's start paying attention to the big picture. When you realize people were saying, "Wait a minute, we are selling our brothers," just like. And I'm gonna shut up after this. Just like 25 years ago, you didn't get a bunch of Africans saying that they were black. And now that the wicked European of the world has put their foot on their neck, now all of a sudden they black. Because they realize, holy man, these people, our brothers and sisters over there, they've been kicked way harder than we think they have. And that's why you got in 2019, you had Ghana put a welcome back campaign, and they said if you are part of the diaspora, you can it's an easy visa program. And that's why in 1993, that same country said we are no longer selling people land unless they are part of the diaspora.
Yeah.
So you can be an American or South American or Central American or Caribbean and buy some land in Ghana. If you're not, you show.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This is what we need to continue to educate ourselves with, instead of nitpicking and being picky-yoon about. Basically, nothing was accurate. It wasn't a whole lot of accuracy, but this forces you to look into your history.
Yeah, it forces you to do your own research. We've known for a long time that you cannot just watch something and expect it to be 100% legit. Now, the names were actual names, but the actual characters besides King Gozi, everybody else was fictional. I mean, it told a story. Now, to A-Trap's point, King Gozi did stop the slave trading. Now, it did happen after the British, and it happened probably years later than what they did in the film. But the point is, they did stop, and I think he realized at some point, okay, this isn't productive for all of us for the end goal. And I think that's he finally came to.
Yeah, and just to touch on this point regarding Ghana, and if you're not part of the diaspora, you can't buy land there. I'm gonna tell you how wise that is, because if you knew how much land in America was owned by foreign countries, you would shit your pants right now.
Yeah,
I'm not fucking you. Like that intentionally. If you knew much was owned by foreign governments in this country, and you'd be trying to figure out why in the hell are they buying up so much property?
Because God ain't making no more land,
right? And China owns quite a bit of Africa as well. So they're buying up that property for sure.
Yeah, you ain't never heard of the BRICS Alliance? Look the shit up.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a reason why I live my life the way I live it, because there's some shit going on out of there that's even bigger than I can understand. So I'm finna enjoy this shit while I got it.
Yeah. What's up, Just Joe? Pastor Dodd in the building. CJ says, I felt like for movie purposes, some of it was exaggerated, but I do feel they captured the majority of what they were trying to put out. They did a really good job exploring the female tribe. And also the director, he said it took years to get this film out. He said there was blood, sweat, and tears, trying to push this to different companies and to get this film out. So this wasn't easy. This wasn't an easy road to even get this film for us to even be able to see it. So I commend them for pushing hard and getting this film out, because again, I appreciate them showing us in power. Like we weren't all slaves. We were not all, and we weren't all just lowly or whatever. We were power. We had power, and they came to us to get that power, to get those resources, or they stole it. So I mean,
So think about that. Think about, why do you think it was difficult for them to get this film pushed and published and distributed? It wasn't because we were selling, people from other tribes. They didn't give a shit about that. It was because of the power position it put us in.
Right.
and just to remember the feeling that folks had after Black Panther came out, and they
Right.
was like, shit,
Yeah.
shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, Wakanda forever, and whatnot. So they don't want that. They don't want that ball to start rolling like that, and then because think about it, if it had been put out right when he was trying to, that would have been right on the heat of Black Panther coming out, and that's the steamroller that gets to get going. And then you start getting some revenue off of that you can put towards some other projects that are probably more like what you want to do instead of that you're asking for permission to do,
Keisha trying to be funny. Shots fired.
The green screen seemed to fix some of that, Ben, but not all of it.
Yeah. And I think the bigger point is they don't want the kids to see it. They don't want them to see what greatness is inside of you, what greatness you came from. For us, I mean, okay, we're older, but I think most importantly, they don't want the kids to see it, because that could change your trajectory and what you see for your future. I think that's the biggest point.
And for the record, it's a good thing we still use StreamYard, because StreamYard will fix that. It fixes when it's buffering, it fixes it.
Yeah.
So by the time it hits YouTube, we'll be sure.
But that's why we need to show greatness in our own neighborhoods and under our own roofs and in our own communities. You follow what I'm saying? So we're not having to rely on people to do it, which is why, again, being referring to some of the projects that we got going on, which is why you got to swing for the fences. Sometimes it's not about the end result. It is about the effort and that it takes to be able to get it done. That needs to be demonstrated as well, because it establishes a work ethic.
CJ says, I know a lot of Africans get a bad rap for their Nollywood films, but actually some of them are pretty decent. And some African filmmakers are looking for an American sponsor so they can have a budget to produce way better movies. And Wilkes said this, there's a whole section of Netflix that's just Nigerian films that a lot of people don't really know they're there, or you see it and you pass by it. But I think that's top 5 in all of filmmaking. So there's definitely a market that's there, and there's films being made.
And to piggyback off both CJ's statements, I really appreciate CJ's initial comment from 10 minutes ago when he said, I like the purpose of the movie. The reason I appreciate that is because CJ is 25 years old. And if more people in the community start thinking like CJ, we would be in a better situation, because CJ saw through the foolishness and he received the message. And in regards to the Nollywood, I think they just put $360 million of American dollars into Nollywood. So those films will be even better. One of the best films on Netflix is a movie called Sankofa. If you get a chance, check that out. That's a dope movie. And it went through hell and high water, put that out. And one thing I really want to comment on in regards to this entire mission is this. For the people who are upset about the fact of actual factual things, okay, cool. You live in the United States of America. You have ability to complain about any and everything that you want to. Knock yourself out. I refuse to tell you not to complain. But what I do want you to understand is this. While you complaining, I need you to get on the phone with Spike Lee and complain about one of most Black Americans' favorite movie, Malcolm X. Brother Baines does not exist. Brother Baines, if you open that book up, Brother Baines is a combination of Malcolm X's brother. I can't think of his name is escaping me right now, who sent him literature on the Nation of Islam. He's also a combination of this brother named Bimby, who was a player who stopped him from getting high acting a fool. So Brother Baines don't exist. So if you're going to complain about things, complain about everything. Or receive, I'm going to chew up the meat, spit out the bones kind of person.
Yeah. Right. And this, hey, do your own research. When you see something and you think, that doesn't look like that makes sense or that add up, look it up. There's plenty of information that goes back. This isn't, and that's another thing that I think upsets me, is that people think we just started at slavery. That's impossible. We just didn't all of a sudden appear, Black people, poof. And there's a history that's further. And I think this films like this should urge us to want to do more research to figure out where we came from.
Yeah, and let me kind of touch on what A-Trap said there, because I think this probably went over a lot of people's head when he said, "I'm gonna chew up the meat and spit out the bones," kind of dude. And what he's trying to say is something that I try to get people to say all the time. In fact, I tried to get him to understand this about the late Kevin Samuels as well. And again, before I go there, let me just remind you that yes, this is a film review podcast. We review films that have, Black actors or actresses or Black storyline or documentary, things of that nature. But we often view these films as an excuse or as a motivation to be able to have deeper conversations, which we're having right now. So again, chew up the meat, spit out the bones. What he's trying to say is that start filtering your information. Take in the information. Don't be concerned about what's right, what's wrong. Take it in, chew up the stuff that's true, spit out the stuff that ain't. Focus on because if you choose to say, I'm not going to take the information in at all because it's got some inaccuracies in it, then you're missing out on the accuracy in it. You understand what I'm saying? That's like saying everything that you eat, I'm not going to eat it because it doesn't have all nutritional value. Doesn't make any sense. It's got some nutritional value. Shit, that fried chicken you eat, it ain't got all nutritional value. Again, chew up the meat, spit out the bones. If it don't apply, matter of fact, my buddy Craig, I always call it, he goes, you got to have a cafeteria mentality. Pick, choose, and refuse. If you're at a buffet, you're not eating everything that's on the damn buffet. Pick, choose, and refuse. Take in what is good and leave out what is not. But at least take the information in. Consider it. Have an open mind at the very least.
Right.
And like my mama used to say, try the spirit by the spirit. Your spirit will confirm whether or not information is correct or not correct a lot of the time if you live in a spiritual life. And that don't mean I'm not cussing, I'm not smoking, I'm not drinking. That ain't what living a spiritual life means.
Yeah. The training that they went through, I felt like that. Yeah. I felt like that was great to show, because that was not some grown man. Some man couldn't go through that, climbing through thorns and carrying that sword. Because when Nawi, when she was trying to hold it, she didn't realize how heavy it was, and it just fell to the ground. I mean, in the training that they had to go through to be in this film, like Viola Davis, they showed some of this was in before the movie came out. Some of the work that they went through to get into this type of shape was amazing.
Yeah, man, I really appreciated that. But you know what? It took me back to roots. And this is something, a lot of people, this is what Doc was just talking about. A lot of people don't realize what we missed out on when we were captured. That's right. I call it the great separation. I don't call it slavery. The great separation. The great separation. All you have to do is watch. Like, I read this book, and I always reference that book. Read it back in 1991, May of 1991. I read it. It was a book about this thick. I read it in one sitting. First and only time I've ever done something like that. But it was a seminal moment in my life reading that book, because it let me know. The book made a whole lot of points, and it said, watch movies and film. The people who are wicked, God made us so they have to tell you the truth. They'll tell you the truth in film to demoralize you, desensitize you from, because I'm trying to speak fast and not just dominate the show. Desensitize you. And one of the things that you watch this and you see when you watch Roots, at the very beginning of the Roots, people remember Toby Kunta Kinte getting beat. They remember him cutting Kunta Kinte's foot off. They remember James Evans, John Amos playing him running. But what you don't remember is when LeVar Burton was Kunta Kinte at the very beginning. And it shows you them taking those 14 boys to the jungle and teaching them how to survive.
Right.
And people don't,
Yeah.
what they don't understand is you took a young man in the wilderness to teach him how to survive and to teach him how to work with his brothers. And you wonder why the brothers over here don't know how to get along, because they haven't been taught those survival skills and how you need the man next to you. It also shows you how a metaphor of black men dressed like Kunta Kinte looked up and he saw colonizers coming. He saw their clothing. He just struck out running. And then they showed you those were black men dressed like white men. And guess what? And they were doing the work of white men. Fast forward, let's just say that was 1850 something, right?
Ooh, I know where you're going, bro.
Fast forward 150 some odd, 170 some odd years, you got young brother getting beat to death by black men. Dressed like white men, doing white men's work. So while we sitting up complaining and oh man, yada yada yada, this, that, and the third, start watching and paying attention, and you'll get the essence of what's going on. That's why, like, again, to pat CJ on the back and uplift CJ, he got it. Yeah, this isn't pinpoint accurate, but I got the gist of what the story was. His name was Shorty. Spike Lee played a man by the name of Shorty, who was a musician, who was Malcolm X's friend. But the real story is Shorty is a variation of this one guy that we all know and love. His name was Chicago Red. The world know him as Fred Sanford, and the rest of the world know him as Red Fox. But they never said that was Chicago Red. They just called him Shorty. It's just a variation of the story. And when you open the book and educate yourself, you empower yourself. And it's dog. And I don't remember which one of y'all said. That's why we have to do the research. And then when you do the research, you chew up the meat, do the research. Oh, that's who this was. You spit out the bone. Shorty ain't real, but it was Red Fox, and it helped the story go along versus getting all in the minutia of the thing. Another thing, and then I'm gonna be quiet again. Something else Spike Lee don't tell you, and Malcolm X don't even tell you, because I don't even think it dawned on him. Earl Little and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad were friends. They were under this one guy by the name of Marcus Garvey. So don't think the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad just stumbled upon the dude who looked just like Earl Little, who's light, and talking just like Earl Little, and his name is Malcolm Little, and you just happen to make him your guy. No, that was your boy's guy. And you uplifted him. So again, I didn't have to read that in the book. I just understand. I mean, I didn't have to see that in the movie and figure it out. I read the book. I love Marcus Garvey. I respect the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad for pulling men and women out of the dope in the gutter and using the Bible. Contrary to popular belief, he used the Bible that me and you and Ben and the rest of us go by and educated his people on that as well. So again, chewing up the meat, spitting out the bones, putting yourself in the best possible position to enhance your life versus just shooting off your mouth before you load up your brain.
Shout out to Vanita. Thank you for tuning in.
What's up, Vanita? That's home girl from G-Town, South Side.
Appreciate you. CJ, with a paragraph. I'm loving it. I feel like a lot of people will be way too critical when it comes to these type of films. The first people like to say is this movie is too exaggerated, but I call those people lazy because they're not trying to put in the work and actually receive a message. Good point. Great point. And a lot of everything in a film, the majority of the time, unless it's a documentary, it's going to be based on a true story, which means that there is some truth, some lie, some in the middle, but they're going to make it theatrical. If they made it exactly to where to what really happened, then it wouldn't have been as good. It wouldn't have been as
entertaining. And
entertaining.
because at the end of the day,
would have been a
they're trying
documentary.
to sell. Yeah, they're trying to
Right.
sell tickets, and also some of the things that you have to be concerned with. And a lot of times we don't realize why they leaves out names, people's places, etc. is because of name, image, and likeness. You know, so sometimes you can't get a sign off from everybody on certain things. You know, so you have to, okay, how are we going to work around this? You know, situation. You know, and again, embellishment that's part of the industry, you know. So it's not a knock. It's just what it is, you know. And CJ mentioned Viola Davis. We mentioned Viola Davis and what kind of shape she was in. That was definitely one of my notes. You know, I was like, damn, Viola Davis is in amazing shape. This ain't no picket fences, Viola Davis, motherfucker. This is, yeah, you know, she was ripped. She was ripped like a tater chip, you know.
Yeah, and that opening scene when they're in the in the grass and they're running forward and she's running with that, that was big time.
I'm
right
glad
there.
you. I'm glad you mentioned that
good
scene.
opening.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that scene because that's exactly what I wrote down. I said I wrote down that I thought it was pretty cool how the women soldiers first appeared in the dark, baby oil glistening and shit like that. That's another reason why this film kept improving in stature and in my terms of ratings, because I was like, why the fuck they got them all glistening and shit like that? Learned later that was a part of battle. You know, they oiled up intentionally, so whenever they was grappling and stuff like that, you slipping off. You're not able to grab, you know, them. And so I'm like, oh, that makes sense then, you know. So that's a little thing that they did and tied it in later, but they didn't tell you. They showed you, you know. So and let your mind, you know, connect the gaps, you know, fill in the gaps, you know. So again, I thought, you know, from a storytelling, cinematography, et cetera, I thought that was fantastic.
And just to show you how, again, they take our culture and inject it into American culture. Up until 1994, guess what NFL players used to do? They used to spray their uniforms down with Pam.
Mm-hmm.
So when the grab you, it'll slip off. It made it illegal.
Wow. Did not know that.
Yep. Pam used to be big in the NFL.
So you going to block somebody, you slipping off of them.
Yeah. All you getting is jersey and air. And so to go back to another historical aspect of this, so the kingdom of Dahomey was under the Oyo Empire. And so that once they really dived into a lot of that in the film. And so I don't remember the guy's name that was the leader of the Oyo Empire, but he basically said, "You have to give me 20 warriors." That's your tribute.
No, he asked for 40 at first. 40.
Oh, okay.
They settled on 20. That was their counter offer. Yeah.
Okay.
He asked for 40.
Yeah. And so I thought that was another part of this story, is that they were under someone else's rule, so they were basically fighting to get freedom from under that rule.
Right.
And I think one of the dopest points in this movie is when they go over there as a group and they're like, "All right, here's our tribute." So I'm thinking, like, what's in this basket? And lo and behold, it's heads of their own warriors. I'm like, that was a great, like, spit in the face. Like, yeah, this is us. This is what we're gonna do. So we ready to fight. So I felt like that was a pretty dope moment in the movie.
It was a very 300 moment. You remember 300 at the beginning where they were asking him, you know, this is what you need to do. We're going to have to fight, you know. And he goes, you got a message for, you know, my king, what's your answer? And he kicked his ass in that big well and he goes, there's my answer, you know, and the shit was on, you know. So,
right.
That was a 300 moment.
Yeah. They also showed us how to gouge someone's eyes out too. Hey, that was every part of them was warrior. All of it. Yeah. Their minds, their fingernails, what they had on. It was all strategic. It wasn't all. None of that was by happenstance. So I felt like they they knew what they were doing. This wasn't just something that they
even a
fell
little
upon.
bitty rope, a little 6-foot twine of rope. That's a weapon. She's like, I don't want this. Give me a real weapon. And she's like, okay, here, pick this up. I can't pick this up. That's why I'm giving you this shit so you'll have a weapon. Now let me teach you how to use it.
Right. And then a great storyline aspect. You knew that Naui and Makaza had some type of connection. You just didn't know what it was. So when you guys seen them together, did you have a sense that they were mother-daughter?
No idea.
No, I knew it was a connection. So I didn't think mother-daughter, but I did start to think that as it went on, and I think I was under the impression that she knew immediately. I didn't think she had to figure it out. I thought she was like, I know you.
Yeah, and she was letting her slide. She was letting her slide with a lot. So I think there was some time. I thought maybe that was like her aunt or something like that. But I figured it was some type of blood connection because she wasn't just gonna let her get stuck out by herself.
Yeah, well, at the time when a lot of that interaction was going on, they hadn't given you some of the backstory yet, so they were just showing you their interaction, and so a lot of me, I was thinking, she just sees a lot of herself in her, like some of her characteristics, because she was wild. I mean, the whole reason why she got there is because she bucked tradition, which was your daddy gonna sell you into marriage to the highest bidder, basically. Women back then, right, in a lot of cultures were revenue. If you had girls but that were born, they were going to be wives later on, and stuff like that. So, when they had some cultures call it a dowry that's paid, so that was revenue. So that's why as soon as she was bucking, and you could tell that was at least her third husband they tried to marry off. The daddy finally gave up, and he goes, "Shit, I'm going to give you to the king," because I can't do nothing with her.
But see, that's what I was speaking about earlier, and matriarchal and patriarchal were the terms I was struggling remembering. But that's what I was saying. That's a colonialized mindset. That's colonialized, because when you look at other films of this nature, even when you look at Black Panther, look at the very beginning of Black Panther when T'Challa was being named the king. They went around that circle, and most of those people who gave him the approval were women. In most African tribes, the woman determines who the king is, and that's why they the queen mother, because we gonna determine. Ivan is going to be the king. Brian is going to be the king. Ben is going to be the king, and that's what it is. That patriarchal thing. That's a European. That's a colonialized mindset. We've taken on the characteristics of the people who captured us, and we've taken on their way of thinking, and that's why the ecosystem has still to this very day is thrown off, because we've devalued the very people who we used to respect the most. Life starts with these people. With these people, life cannot continue, but we gonna make them secondary. Think about it, man. I mentioned this last week on my show. Until the year I was born, my mother couldn't get a bank account without my dad's permission.
Wow.
A credit card.
Wow.
Without my dad's written permission.
To this day,
1970.
To this day, sometimes when door-to-door salesman comes by, they say, "Hey, is your husband home?" They still ask that question to this day. What they say is the decision maker here,
right?
Obviously, they're saying that is the guy here because he's the one that's actually going to make the decision, not you. So,
yeah. So I think that's a colonized way of thinking. And again, when you're doing like CJ, looking for information versus looking for the flaw, like everyone, on my. I like when my the sports group, y'all are part of the sports group. I still post over there, and what I do is I'll schedule. What I do is I'm restless. I'm moving at all mentally. I'm moving at all times, right? So I'm always reading, and I'll find a story and I'll schedule it to post at night. What I do if I wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning, I can't go back to sleep. I find something, I schedule to post it at 9. That's why it seems like I'm always posted, but I'm not always posted. I find something today at 2 o'clock and schedule to post it tomorrow at 9 a.m. So it's stuff hitting every hour, right?
Yeah.
And I have my coach, my defensive coordinator, he in the group, and I watch him. And I used to look up, I got mad love and respect for him. But what I've noticed, I'll post, Ben Southern led the league in rebounding. And the first thing he'll do is, but he wasn't Ivan Dawkins. But he was dominant, and he was a bad mofo. He immediately goes to the negative and then give him his flowers. And it's like, what was the purpose of doing that?
Right.
And like you always say, we always get on these geopolitical conversations. It's just like I was talking to my cousin Mike yesterday, and I was talking to the homie Joe yesterday, and I was like, Ja Morant is the result of us allowing Skip Bayless to destroy this young man by the name of LeBron James' name for the last 20 years. He has become a multimillionaire by denouncing LeBron James. And Big Illinois, he was in on the conversation. And look at what happens to LeBron. We got people questioning a guy who didn't go to high school, went directly to the NBA, and just check this out. We question LeBron James, but if I told you if we could wind the clock back 20 years, LeBron James is senior in high school. If I'd have said Ben Ivan, you know, the young boy out of Akron, when he retires, he's gonna go to 10 NBA finals. He's gonna win 4 of them. He's gonna lead the league in assists. He's gonna lead the league in scoring. He's gonna be all defensive for the vast majority of his career. And when he retires, he's gonna have more MVP, just as many MVPs as Jordan. And he's gonna have more assists than Magic Johnson and more points than Kareem. You'd have said he's gonna be the greatest of all time. And guess what? That's exactly what that young brother's done. And if you say LeBron James in the sports chat, people tear him down. And you wonder why Ja Morant making foolish mistakes? Because the blueprint, you've destroyed his reputation. You've made him questionable. This dude has taken the woman he took to prom, and him and her they got 20 plus years in the game with 3 children. The last time, think about this. The last time we heard LeBron James in trouble, he was getting a speeding ticket his senior year because his mama just bought him a Hummer. That's the most.
I ain't never heard him be in trouble.
Right, I'm saying that's the last time we heard him in trouble.
Yeah.
He was going 90 into 45. So
go ahead.
No,
Ben,
I'm done.
Put that Vanita's comment back up there. I think that's interesting from a female's perspective.
Yeah. She said, I think she knew. Later, she said her heart was bruised. That's very relatable for women. And she they started going into the nightmares that she was having.
Mm-hmm.
So there was definitely a tie there. So I appreciate that comment.
Yeah, and that just goes to show that, you know, just how we see different things in the films that we review. Men and women see things differently in the films we review as well, you know.
Right. And that's Big Illinois. Appreciate you for tuning in. He said, fellas.
What's up?
All right. So Naui and Agoji end up getting captured. And what made me think of this is, say they get captured and they're sold and they end up being in America. Like these people weren't just homeless and they captured them. They were, I believe they were warriors, doctors, lawyers, whatever the terms were. And so that immediately made me think of that. It's just how powerful these people that were powerful, they didn't know where they were going. They didn't know what language was being spoken. They just know they end up, they own ships and they end up coming somewhere. So that I felt like that was a really great moment to have in here, to parallel to what really happened.
That's a great point. And one of the things that I saw, and they illustrated well in this movie as well, is that Izogi, you notice how she was just depressed at that point.
Yeah,
It took Nawi to build her back up. So just think about back in the day, some of those warriors and doctors and whatever they were getting captured. That was a mental hurdle, man. So that's why a lot of the folks, this black folks nowadays, man, if I was around slave, I wouldn't have been. You don't know what the hell you'd have did. Number one, but number two, they only think about the mental constraints that they were under. I mean, the physical constraints they were under. They don't think about the mental challenges that went along with that. See, some of those people were probably blaming themselves. Like, shit, I knew I shouldn't have went out and did such and such. I shouldn't have been over at such and such. I shouldn't have, or just the fact that I'm this powerful warrior. How did I let myself get captured? You know what I'm saying? So they're dealing with this mental, this psychological battle in addition to what the fuck is going on.
Right. And the fact her arm getting snapped back into place, that had me cringing.
The fact they made that look real, man. The fact that it was broken and out of place the way that it was, and that they made that shit look real, man.
Yeah. And you think of the mindset of Nawi, she was new. So she was a young blood. She was like, nah, you're not going out like this. But if it was somebody else, because actually there was another lady that was there, and they were both kind of downtrodden. So that was a perfect person for her to be paired with. Because if not, she might have just gave up and just like, I'm here and this is it.
Yeah. And see,
go ahead, B. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, because I'm gonna go somewhere else. So you go ahead.
Oh, another thing that like you talked about how they were systematically captured, right? Mm-hmm. What people don't realize is the people who were capturing these African people, they were captured. It is documented that they said we captured the healers first. We captured or killed the healers. And a healer isn't just a doctor. A healer is a spiritual healer. A healer is an uplifter. Because if, like the sister sitting there, the sister who was the baddest chick in the whole movie, she's sitting there with that dislocated shoulder. She was the baddest chick in the movie to me. And she was about to check out. So she needed and she had been uplifting the whole get down. So you remove those people, and we can all attest to that. Like if you don't have a family that is a solid unit, I guarantee you your grandmother or your grandfather died real early in the get down, and nobody stepped up into that role. So the family is fractured. And this has been going on clearly for centuries. You get rid of these healers. Yeah, I might be able to give you some medicine, but I also could say, snap up out of it. And then sometimes you just need it.
Yeah. You need it. Or you need a hug, or you need some encouragement.
Exactly.
Hey, when I think I hear A-Trap talk about this from time to time, when Big Mama used to say, you need to get somewhere and lay down.
Yeah.
Okay. If people don't understand the healing nature of just go somewhere and lay down. Get you, that wasn't for nothing. That wasn't so you can get out of my face. That was because there was some benefit to it.
Yeah.
Now, where I wanted to go is I was thinking, as I was watching this movie, do y'all remember when this movie first got released and we started talking about it on Black Twitter and Black Facebook and all that, why so many men seem to have a problem with this movie? Do y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. Did y'all come across that?
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't see anybody.
It was a lot of them, man. Like they had a problem with it, and they were saying that like it was demasculating the men and some other things. And I'm like, I'm sitting there watching the movie trying to figure out what's the problem? Where's the problem with this film? I wasn't seeing it, so I was completely lost. But that was a big deal, man.
Yeah, and I think that's a personal issue that you have with women. But that's the only reason why, because there was still a king, and the king still chose who was the leader or whoever was over it. But I don't get why you would necessarily have a problem with that, because the men were still fighting, and this was fact. This wasn't something that was made up. So if you for some reason don't agree with it, it was factual, and that's what happened. So, I mean, you got to deal with that.
It goes back to the colonialized mind. You've taken on the mentality of the European, so you don't understand the value of this woman. You don't
Right.
understand.
Yeah.
Then the sad thing is, United States of America, in which 35 to 40% of us don't even know our father, and the person who raised you is just like these sisters from Dahomey, and you got the nerve to have an issue with women.
But you came
Again,
from one.
you've taken on this type of mindset. Like, there's a lot of sisters, and sometimes I get to the point where I think you stretching, but then I dial back because I ain't never been a woman. Like, hey, you overlooking me. You're not paying attention to me. But that's not the case. See, you got I'm gonna call out. I don't care. You got the Jamil Hills of the world, and you got the Karen Hunters of the world. Jamil Hill calling out men. She literally said black men have taken on the colonized mind. Like, all black men are white men in disguise. And I'm like, God, nope. But then you got Karen Hunter saying, hey, if I like Karen Hunter, will say the exact same thing, but then she'll follow it up with this. And then if you think you're being emasculated, I'm gonna need you to do some research and do you a movie about the men. And otherwise, shut up. And then you can respect that. Because now I get that point of view from both people. But me, because of the loss and that, I can respect it. Because I've seen it.
And I think the bigger story is, which H-Rap, we've talked about this, is that division. The main goal is to divide the in our community. That is the goal. So if it's coming from us or it's coming from somebody else outside of the community, that is really the goal. So if you can do that, which this film did not do that. There was no division. Like I said, the men was fighting with the women. They were just not in this. They just weren't a goji because. Yeah. In this film, they talked about how when you come between this particular barrier, we live on our own. We live like in our own area. If not, if you want to be outside, then it means if you want to be married, if you want to have kids or whatever. But they were treated as royalty because they were the ones that went out and did the dirty work. So
the general population couldn't even look at them. When they were out and about, but, a lot of people don't understand that, necessity is the mother of invention. So a lot of these situations may have derived because we don't have that many numbers. Shit, everybody got to fight, and they just took it to another level, but that shit, it was a lot of that, shit, when they tribe got, 75,000, we only got 40,000. Well, shit, if we got a shot, everybody gonna have to pick up something and fight with something. You know what I'm saying? When typically it may have only been a situation where, so there's a lot of circumstances that get you from point A to point B.
Yeah. Or better yet, let's reference the movie you referenced earlier, the 300.
Yeah.
He was like, how you gonna fight them? Y'all gonna fight 10,000 people with 300 soldiers? Yeah. He go another 1,000 people with us. He's like, yeah. That's 1,000 people, but we got 300 soldiers.
Right. There you go.
You got 1,000 people. We got gorillas over here, man.
That's a classic movie, man. And they moved as a unit. It wasn't 300 different people. It was a unit of 300, but it was one moving as
one band, one sound. Shit.
Right.
Man, one sound, man. And that's the thing. As you stated a second ago, Ben, it's the division. That's why they keep winning. Because
we doing it. We the ones speaking this division. Like we need each other. There shouldn't be no division because that what the woman brings, the man sometimes can't bring it. Then you bring that together and you iron each other. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, man. I mean, you see it every day in basic life. Ain't nobody, most heterosexual people ain't trying to hear nothing about LGBTQ, right?
Yeah.
Ain't nobody really trying to hear that. But people are making it an issue. Like one of my homies called me with a complaint about transgenders this week. He was like, man, I'm sick of this. It's getting on my nerves. If you a dude, I ain't calling you, let's say Francis. I was like, what? Why not? I said, you would call Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Ali. So why would you call? Why you got an issue? Again, create a division about something that has nothing to do with anything. If you want to be a woman, maybe I may not address you as a woman, but what I'm gonna do is this: I don't think you're a woman, but if you want me to call you Deborah, you Deborah. Period. I'm not gonna call you. I'm not gonna call and say, "Hey, girl," but I'm gonna say, "What up, Deborah?"
Yeah.
All I got to do is learn your name. I'm gonna respect you as a human being first. But again, that's how they divide us, because you standing on the anti-gay hill or anti-trans hill, but before you anything, you black.
Yeah.
That's the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, it's about that time of the show. I know you don't like the intro. You want the intro? Or you just want to go right?
Yeah, go on, give me the intro. Shit, that's all we got right now. Until Cole come up with something better.
Beauty of the week. Cole got to use that beat though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that music bed is just too dope. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right. So beauty of the week, obviously, the name of the movie is The Woman King. So you had a lot of choices here, and starting with Viola Davis herself, right? Because I've long established that this beauty of the week is not only external beauty, it is internal beauty and the strength of the woman as well, right? So I take all that into play, even though mine don't ever hurt you. I give an honorable mention to Viola Davis. I give a huge honorable mention to Lashana Lynch, who played Izogi. Okay, just her strength and her mentality, her sense of humor, her way to connect with the young soldiers and stuff. She was a badass, but she didn't walk around with a badass mentality that was negative, if that makes any sense, know. So I give her a big up. But our beauty of the week is she played the character by the name of Shantae. Maybe this is why Ashante is so fine, because she was named after Shantae. I don't know. This individual, and I'm not going to show a picture just yet. This individual, she played Bella Real in the Batman, the 2022, the Batman, right, the most recent one, and she also played young Michelle Obama in Showtime's The First Lady series. All right, her name is Jamie Lawson. And how about that for a piece of sexual chocolate right there? That is beauty of the week. Where's my round of applause at, man? Any disagreements?
No.
Any disagreements?
Not at all. I thought you was gonna pick Naui, but
no, and not Naui looked like she was about 16. I couldn't put her up there just yet. And this chick, just for those of you who don't know necessarily what role she played, she actually played one of the king's wives. She was the most ambitious of the king's wife, She did not get along with Viola Davis's character at all,
and she was the only wife, I think, that had a
speaking role,
dialogue, a speaking role.
Yeah. The other one was with a lot of facial expressions and stuff like that. But you could tell she was the wife, though. She was the one that, understandably so, But what's funny, speaking of, you said, I'm surprised you didn't name Naui. Even the king said, if your ass wasn't so bad on this field, on this battlefield, shit, I'd make you one of the wives here. But yeah.
Man, Naui older too. I thought she was like 18. Now he's like 30.
Really?
In real life?
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Really, yeah. But yeah, this chick right here.
Yeah.
And you can tell in all her pictures, she is about that sisterhood.
Definitely.
She is about that sisterhood.
And I mean, just the black.
So let me just say this to her. I got about 88 days left for freedom. So you got 88 days left to holler at me. You hear me? But some other stuff might jump out. So you better holler at me quick. I can't talk.
That's way too specific of a number. You counting down the days.
Hey, and since I said 88 days, you know what that means if you're a Cowboy fan.
All right. Shout out to the great. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. Keisha said, I disagree. It should have been Egozi. Which she got an honorable. She got an honorable mention.
Yeah, she got honorable. But she wasn't.
Hey, Ray the Kid finished that workout early.
Didn't he?
He was a round of applause. He was like, hold on a minute. Let me get back to that in a minute. She's actually 31.
Wow.
Did not know that.
If she could have been 47, I wouldn't have cared because she couldn't. She can't touch this. I'm sorry. That chocolate right there, she can't touch that. I'm sorry. Sorry. It ain't happening.
Now, one of the other things is them braiding each other's hair. I felt like that was beautiful. I mean, obviously they didn't have they had to really care for each other because no one else was really allowed behind that point. Mm-hmm. So they taught each other, they gave each other direction, they braided each other's hair. I mean, it was the Black
I think that was
on display, man.
Yeah, we talk about A-Trap. We talk all the time about the things that we lost in the transfer, right? And that's one of those kinds of things that we did not lose. Because I'm telling you right now, my mama and my aunties every Friday night. The reason why me and my cousins were so close is because we was over there every Friday night. They were doing each other hair. The reason why I'm so good at dominoes is because while their wives was getting their hair done, the men was in the backyard playing domino. You know what I'm saying? That kind of situation. So, sitting by the stove with the straightening comb on the eye of the stove and talking, gossiping about everything that done happened. And if your ass got in trouble at school that week, your auntie's gonna know every damn thing. If you got caught jacking off in the bathroom, your aunties was gonna know that day. You know,
they know everything. And you're gonna be there. You're gonna be there at least 3 to 4 hours.
Or let me bring King Doc's story home. Or if you got caught stealing honey buns at Mignon's, she gonna tell all the details of the shit. You know,
every detail. And he did this. You know what he did?
Yeah. Girl, can you believe it? Had the nerve and had a pocket full of money and whatever. You know.
And then they look at you like,
right. Yeah, you got one auntie laughing at you, the other one shaking your head, another auntie gonna tag team and fuss at your ass again. You know, It's just what it is.
Hey, and that's that family. That's that family that we need.
Time, man.
Yeah. King Gozy, I wanted to ask y'all this. Did he Boyega is a good actor. He also did Breaking. We did that film.
Wait a minute, what you calling him?
Boyega. And that is
you call him King what?
Gozy.
King Gizo, man. It's spelled Ghezo. King Gizo, man.
Anyways.
A-Trap done completely disappeared. What about him though?
You think his character was believable? For me, I couldn't. I knew that's who he was, but I couldn't take him too serious.
Well, before we answer that, give us some more information. What was not believable about it?
He just didn't look the part for me. He didn't deliver I don't think the accent. I think
he's African, right?
Yeah, if he is,
that'd be A-Trap. That's why I'm trying to get his joke as much rope as I can. I want to see what he do with it. So now, A-Trap, you go ahead and respond, and then I'm gonna respond with what I got to say.
I mean, he seemed typical to me. I mean, he seemed like a king. I mean, kings don't do a whole lot of stuff. They just talk.
That is very similar to where I was going to go. I was like, every king ain't this big bad motherfucker that's walking around talking. You got some kings in every culture. In fact, Great Britain and France and some of the other ones, you got some kings that were king by only blood, and they was the biggest pussies you're gonna ever find. And they knew it. Some of them, you got some kings that was crippled and shit. But because his blood is raw, he the king. So my mentality, like, I love period pieces, man. I really do. Movies and series and stuff set back in the old, in fact, the White Queen, the woman queen, the Virgin Queen. I'm watching all that stuff, right? The Borgias, the Medicis, everything that got to do with that, series. I'm watching it, man. You know, the new Pope, the old Pope, the young Pope. I'm watching all that shit, right? But my point is,
Django for the Pope.
So as a result, you see that there are all types of kings, all types of monarchs, so it didn't, he fit the part to me. That was just who he was. And in fact, I think they even played on that a little bit to where they were trying to get him to, hey, toughen up on this shit, man. We can't let that go. Yeah. And another one was trying to be like, no, stay with doing what you're doing, and stuff like that. So I think he was, that A-Trap's word of typical, I think he's more typical than you think.
And then I think the man might have been a low-key gorilla,
because he did at one moment he was like, look, don't take my kindness for weakness.
Right. I think
just because I'm talking,
man. I think it's just like anything else, man. Like, hey, to quote the great philosopher Tupac Shakur, I ain't no killer, but don't push me.
Right.
I mean, but you know what, man? And I would take a different road than Dog took, like in regard, like Dog, right? It might be like if you watch Game of Thrones, old boy was a full breed punk. He was a straight goofball. But I think my man was a gorilla, and he had, when you the king, you can't just bust everybody in the mouth.
That's right.
Because if I bust everybody in the mouth,
the best kings don't. Yeah, the best kings don't.
And I ain't no king, but I used to be this. Hey, Kirby in the chat room. If Kirby listening, he'll tell you what hot coffee used to mean. It was going down. Hot coffee. Bam! That was it. So I had to cool off the coffee. It's like, cause I was. Man, my left hand is swollen to this day. I would die with a swollen left hand because, bow, that was it. And as I got older, then one day I just said, hey man, you know what? If I get socked in the eye now, it ain't gonna heal in 3 days. It's gonna heal in about 4 months. I can't take no more.
That is true. Yeah, you used to wake up in the morning and the shit be gone.
I mean, I was the takeoff king, once I told this dude who was at work and he thought I was a square. And he was like, yo, man, see, you don't understand, you old now. And I was only like 38, 36, 38 at the time. And I told him, I said, hey, my man, you got an uncle like 30, 36 years old? He was like, yeah. I said, call him and ask him about these guys. And that was my crew, the Lincoln Park crew. And I said, ask him. And he put him on speaker. And the dude described me. I swear to God, he was like, it was this one dude, and he was late. And I was like, that's me. And that's you. I was like, yeah. So now, Ben, it just, you got that. He had that hawk in him.
Yeah.
I bet you. Hey, but you know what? This how you know dude wasn't no punk. Rape a man, buddy. I can't think his name right now. The dude who raped her.
Yeah.
You see, that
other king.
Dude was a car. He didn't try him. He was a card carrier.
That's right.
Colonialized bully. He had a white mentality. He was flat out a bully. He tried the woman king, but he didn't try Buddy.
Yeah.
Nah,
and he
and he even told him, he turned this. He did the most disrespectful thing you could do to a warrior. He
That's
turned
right.
his
Turn
back
his
on
back
him at
on.
one point.
That's right.
He said, "Yeah, all right," and gave him the back, and went, and then came back. We'll think about it.
Yeah.
Usually, you give somebody your back, you tell them, "Hit me then."
Yeah.
Do something.
That's no respect.
Don't
Yeah.
You finna do
Yeah.
this.
You can't.
You gonna wait.
Like H-Rap said, sometimes you can't look at people and tell what they are. You can look at us and tell. You can look at H-Rap and tell he a fighter. You can look at me and tell I'm a lover. You can look at Ben and tell. Anyway,
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I was always the short dude, so that's why I fought.
All right. Vanita got a comment in here. What this mean right here? 88 to
she referring to my 88 days. I said, but she is 88 and 7 days. I don't know what she's talking about.
It looked like she said the clock ticking.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, I wanted to pull up some photos here that I found during that time. This is the graphic here of the Dohami, the OG, the Warriors there, and then this is the King right here with that long pipe.
Oh, he's smoking that peace pipe, baby. I'm with it. Yeah. That's the kind of king I am. Shit.
He kind of look like
that long peace pipe too. Yeah, he do kind of look like him.
They do favor each other.
Yeah, if I got that kind of peace pipe, you better believe I'm gonna need either one real athletic wife. I'm gonna need 4 or 5 of them because that peace pipe do something to you, baby.
and to have all them wives, man, you ain't got no tension.
I got no.
You might be like Scottie Pippen.
Yeah. Did you see that? You talking about his wife had? Yeah.
He smashed her 4 times a day for 23 years.
God damn.
And she still left him.
No wonder he got 48,000 keys.
You heard Aaron when she walked by, don't you? Shit.
I'm done.
You hear a whistling sound, don't you? Shit, man. All right, man. Let's rate this thing, man.
Letting it loose. All right. So this week, we're gonna start a new thing where we give the rating that we initially had, and then we'll give our rating after discussing it.
Yeah.
So let's go to Dark first. Final thoughts and mic ratings.
Yeah. So my final thoughts is going to be some statistics that I thought were very interesting. And again, this is a bottom line industry, right? So if a project makes money, it should signal or give you the ability to make more projects, right? So this had a budget of 50 million. It made 94.4 million. Okay. So it almost doubled its budget. So that's a success as far as I'm concerned. Right. Again, released by Sony Pictures. And for me, the storyline within the story, this movie, this film, man, it has stories within stories that were each interesting in their own accord. Think about how many different ways you can really go with this. Think about some of these superhero movies and stuff like that. If you wanted to focus more on the war, the Doji, if you want to focus more on the king and his wives, if you want to focus more on, you know what I'm saying? There's so many different areas you can really go because of the storyline. If you just want to tell the origin story of how it came about, like, again, Viola Davis's character getting raped by old boy, if you want to go back to that, so storyline within, I thought they did a fantastic job. Again, cinematography was fantastic. And a lot of these young African actors were amazing. A lot of them getting their first shot at stuff were amazing, right? IMDb gave it 6.8 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a very rare score of 94%. That is extremely high on Rotten Tomatoes. Metacritic 77%, and Google 75% of Google users liked it. My initial rating after watching it on my own before reviewing it with y'all was a four mics, which again is a good rating on our 5 mic scale. And my number of mics after the review was still 4 mics. This was one time I didn't change it. I thought it was a solid 4, and that's where I'm still at.
Okay. All right. Cool. A-Trap.
I thought it was an excellent film. I was gonna get, actually it's gonna sound horrible, but I went down. I started off at 5 on 4.5, and I could really go. It's really it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. But I'm you know what, I'm gonna stay with 5. No, I'm not gonna go down. The reason I'm not gonna go down is because Doc actually pushed me back. With the last statement Doc said, he just pushed me back up to 5, right? Yeah. Simply because how many layers it was, and this was an onion movie. This movie had so many different layers. You had, as you said, the king and his relationship with his wife, the wife being jealous of Viola, the relationship between I would say the colonel, because if old girl was a general, she had to be the colonel, the one who died. I can't think of her name. Sister who died, who's sliding a drink in there once in a while.
Lashana Lynch,
Izogi. The Izogi story. You could do a movie about Izogi.
Yeah, that's right.
It was just so many different layers to this, and it's just, and again, it takes me to the point of: are you watching this to be critical? Are you watching this to be educated and entertained? And far too many people watch to be critical, and they find out what's wrong versus what was dope about the movie. I really dug it. I thought it was a great story. It was a great representation by Viola Davis, and the indigenous population in this movie really put me over the top. We hear about, like this just to show you the foolishness that we get wrapped up in. Man, Idris Demikin, why he playing Franklin Saint, but then you don't have no problem with Viola Davis playing African Queen. So,
yeah. You got to be able to act the role. He was the best person for that role. There was other people that went out for the role, but they couldn't deliver it.
Yeah, and one of the characters that we missed that we didn't talk about, did y'all remember he wore purple, like a purple sheer thing? There was this what appeared to be this homosexual advisor type to the king or something like that. Yeah. He was in the palace. Wasn't that interesting? And so you talk about layers and stuff. They just kind of sprinkle that in, which I found interesting.
Yeah, they didn't single it out or anything. That was just
he just was.
Hey, but you know what?
Nobody look at him funny.
Hey Ben, that's how you know the king was a gorilla, because he had. I'll say something. But he had Cinnabon happening. I went for it. But he had Sugar Steve helping him. Sugar Steve, like that's how you know.
So I had a preconceived notion going into this movie, and it changed my thought when the movie was over, because it had a great storyline. It gave you some history. It also, there could be a potential of them doing multiple things. You could do a prequel or a sequel, because now we possibly could have a baby with curly baby hair cat. So I mean, who knows as to where they could go further with this.
Or she takes over the crew one day,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So they got ability to do different things with it.
But what was your preconceived notion though? What was your?
So I thought they weren't telling the truth about how they were capturing slaves. For some reason, that's what I thought. But they clearly told the truth. That's what they were doing. That's how they made their money. But they did look at other options and they stopped. So, it wasn't it came full circle. It wasn't, they told what exactly happened. So I had a 3.5 at first, but I'm gonna bump it up to a 4. So I think that's a fair. So we got 4, 5, and 4 as our
And we can still get Wilkes' rating for the YouTube or wherever we put it at for our final. We can still get his if he's got one.
Okay, cool. All right. So coming up next week, we're gonna do another kind of Black powerful film, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And this is what we're going to do next week, and the follow-up to the original one. I've seen this twice already. I'm probably going to watch it again just to get reacclimated with it. But this was they did well with the sequel. I'll say that, and I'm sure a lot of people probably already seen it. So with that, that's what we'll dive into next week.
I haven't seen
it. Okay, cool. Somebody else said 5 mics. We appreciate that. All right, so what's coming up tomorrow on the End of the Bench?
What's coming up tomorrow? I should have waited to name that show, but introduction to apartheid. That's what I'm gonna call it.
Okay.
Ron DeNasi down there in Florida, and the people in Tennessee, the attorney down there in Texas. They acted a complete and utter fool. South Carolina, they joined the circus, and basically, I'm gonna highlight how we keep assuming that these are individual situations. These people are literally trying to institute apartheid in the United States of America. Yeah. Ron DeSantis is making it illegal to be a Kappa and be on campus in Florida.
What?
To be an alpha and be on campus in Florida. He man, it's Bill SB 999. I spoke about it last week. I'm gonna go in deeper this week. SB 999 is detrimental to me, you, and anybody who is not white. I'm gonna give you a sneak peek of it. They are literally saying SB, I don't think it could be passed simply because the feds are going to step in. It is in violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. But what he's doing, again, is another dog whistle. I'm going to put potential oppression in the air so my base will rally behind me.
Yeah.
And get behind it. He literally, part of the bill is literally, you can't teach Black studies. You can't teach Asian studies. You can't teach Latino studies. You can't teach Jewish studies. He in Florida saying you can't teach about Jews. But hey, Florida people, you asked for it. You got it. Ron did not see. He in the building. So we talk about that, man. And another sneak preview. Remember a year ago, I told people, hey, man, cats down here in Texas, they cutting the fool with this abortion thing. Remember I said that?
Yep.
And now in South Carolina, they are trying to pass a law that says if you get a medically induced abortion, that is a murder, and it could be pursued with capital punishment ramifications.
Wow. So if the mother's at risk.
No. They didn't even leave. Usually they leave a loophole like, okay, if you get raped, you can get an abortion. If incest, you get an abortion. If it's after this many weeks, if you get an abortion,
period,
they can consider it murder. They're trying to consider it murder. If you get tried and convicted of murder 1, premeditated murder in the state of South Carolina, they are trying to apply the death penalty to women who don't want children. But you ain't doing the darn thing about it's a county in South Carolina, the very same state with the highest diabetes rate in the United States of America. More people getting their limbs cut off in that portion of the country than any place in the world. But you care about unborn children.
Yeah,
you're not gonna take my leg.
They just to give you more sugar.
So, bro. I'm not letting them take my leg.
All right, Queen, Thing, King tomorrow.
tomorrow on the Queen 3 and King, women in sports. Isn't that ironic? Yeah, it worked out. And then today, this month is Woman History Month. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought it was cool that we got this in before the end of the month. The Woman King and now Woman in Sports tomorrow with my special guest host, Karita Parks. She is the CEO of Double Take Sports and a sports journalist, a freelance sports journalist. She doing big things. Ran into her out at the Super Bowl in Phoenix, and we had seen each other on each other's platforms and were, acquainted via social media. And when we saw each other, we was like, hey, what's going on? And much love, and kept running at each other all week. And so I told her we needed to have her on the show to kind of debrief and kind of talk about her stuff. And when I talked to her about women in sports, I'm like, I'm sure that's an old subject for you. She goes, that's a subject that never gets old because it is ever evolving. So I think it ought to be an interesting, and then we'll get to be able to get the Queen's perspective on that as well. What are some of the questions you would have if you were first getting into sports as a woman, as a journalist, covering a team and stuff like that, It ain't like the old days where the women were having to be in the locker room around naked athletes, because that happened, right? But there are some other challenges.
Yeah. She's gonna be a great guest tomorrow. I've known her through social media for a while, so definitely looking forward to that one. And all right, so next week, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. We should have Wilkes back from vacation. And like we always do, H-Rap, go ahead and close us out.
Oh, I had to stretch my back. Man, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in. You already know, as my man Reggie O'Shea always says, dream your dreams and man up and woman up and live your dreams, because life without dreams flows in black and white. Life with dreams flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And if I owe you something, I ain't got it. And if you need it, get it from God.
As well as my taxes.
Hey.